I'm in boot camp. Now I'm badass because I'm in Navy boot camp with a SEAL contract in a spec ops division. My boot camp division is sponsored by EOD. I'm like, cool. I have no idea what that is. Whatever.
Mhm.
And they're like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, whoa, this sounds legit. You get to work with everyone else, not just SEALs. I'm like, that sounds legit. Now, the huge con is I have to tell the dive motivators over here that I don't want to be a SEAL anymore and I want to go EOD. That's just like, oh my God, I'm about to get like my ass shoot or something.
I could be out doing more hustling to make more money, but I wouldn't be spending the time right now with my son in these formative years as he's 2.5 years old. And I have literally been there for almost every day of his life.
That's awesome.
There's nothing in any retirement account. There's no car. There's no house, no lake house that's worth giving up that time. Kids, of course, today, like 80% wants to be an influencer. Bang your head on a rock all you want. It's never going to change. No matter how nice a Ferrari you get into, sitting down with your son as he falls asleep in your arms when your wife can't get him to go to sleep and he's fussy and he needs a nap, but you get him to go to sleep. I don't care how many people look at you when you drive by. That means nothing. Your son being able to go to sleep in your arms and knowing that he's safe and that he's protected. And there's a lot of kids out there that have been hurt by other people that didn't have a protector, that didn't have a father at home, that didn't have somebody, a mentor there to really show them the way.
Seriously, go back, look at something that you are tremendously grateful for in your life right now and just invite him up. Look at what we did. Like, you did this, right? I'm like, come on up, little man. Come on up, 10-year-old me.
Welcome our guest, Jay Lee. He is somebody that I just recently met actually at a tactical training retreat for veterans. And that's where I found out that he had served in the Navy with the EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal community. Guys in bomb suits. That's what most people think of, or the movie Hurt Locker, where every day brought high stakes missions, split second decisions, and weighty responsibility. You know, just life and death stuff. Following his service, Jay transitioned into the world of finance and coaching, where he's a successful professional finance consultant. He now focuses on empowering high performers, particularly veterans, physicians, and driven men just like those of my audience, to build more than just outcomes, to build legacies, purpose, and financial freedom grounded in faith and character, from the battlefield to the boardroom, from action mode to purpose-driven freedom. So if you would, throw a welcome down in the comments and welcome Jay Lee.
Well, no, thanks for having me, Seth. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm happy to be here and talking to your audience. And hopefully, we can give them some good wisdom and some lessons learned, and maybe some what not to do. A whole lot of what not to do.
Always share some of those. Absolutely. So yeah, if you would just kind of jump in a little bit with your background first, you know, kind of where you came from, a little bit of what, you know, ended up driving you toward the military and the route you went when you went to the military.
Sure. I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York, not in the city. There's a lot more to New York as a whole state than just the city that a lot of people, just go to, oh, you're from the city. No, it's upstate. It's the heart of New York, actually, Syracuse. But yeah, it was not a fancy neighborhood. Lived on a dead end street in the ghetto on South Salina Street. And yeah, it was rough. Single mom upbringing. It was me and my sister, my older sister for the most part. And then when I was 14, my little brother came along, just a delayed blessing is what we call him. But no, he's awesome. And he's, he's grown up now and doing his thing. Super proud of him. And yeah, it was rough, being a minority amongst minorities in the ghetto of Syracuse, New York, AKA Stabacuse, and made a lot of bad decisions. I don't know. It was God-driven, divine intervention guiding me to certain people and certain paths. And I firmly believe that I would not be here if it weren't for that intervention, and a lot of luck also.
Well, at what age do you feel like was there a pivotal moment, or you just kind of always felt that there was God, there was a plan for your life, or like, how did that come to be?
I was raised Catholic. All my mom, single mom, and even when our car was broken or stolen, made a point. She made a point. We did not. She did. She made a point to like, we're going to church every Sunday. We're going to walk there if we have to, which we did many times. And yeah, that was instilled in me from a very early age. And I didn't really appreciate it, obviously, when I was a kid. I'm like, what are we doing? Our car is stolen, or it's impounded or whatever the case may be, repoed. All three have happened multiple times in my life and growing up. And she just made it a point like, we are going to walk, we're going to do it. And that's that. And, so I had those roots kind of being established from in me at a very young age, ever since I can remember. And yeah, I just look back now at a lot of situations and circumstances that I was in as a child. I'm like, how did you make it out of there, dude? I like talk to myself all the time. Like I talk to my 10-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old self. I'm like, dude, how did you make it through that? That's nuts. I don't think I could make it through that right now as a man after everything I've experienced. And I like those conversations with him,
Yeah.
my younger self. I talk to him a lot, and I think that helps me through a lot of different things through my own journey still. But yeah, I don't think there was a single pivotal moment throughout my childhood that really kind of reinforced that divine intervention. It's really a lot of reflecting back and like, holy smokes, there's no other way like you survived that, or you made it through that, or you're just in these situations and you come out how you did,
Mhm.
with a career, with a wife, with a family of your own, with a house of your own now, and you made it out. You made it out, guy, and good on you. But it wasn't. It was truly divine intervention. I believe it.
Well, I imagine you came out with some scars, not just knife wounds, but to be able to utilize those, right, and use those as lessons learned to teach yourself, and then obviously to pass that information down to your children. And how roughly are your kids like still real young, or are they like middle school
Yeah,
age? I mean, you look
I'm in
like
it.
you're a young guy, but
I'm in it. 7, 4, and 2,
okay, yeah,
all
those are the
boys. So it's crazy. It's pure
boy dad.
chaos.
Yeah. Awesome. So when you were growing up, and you mentioned you have a strong mother who's, again, determined, that's some determination. If your car's stolen, if your car's broken down, you're still walking. I mean,
Yeah.
growing up, I remember like my parents, there was no excuse for not going to church, and church was an hour drive away. And I remember, sometimes we'd go get in the car and the car didn't work. So we had to jump in another car. And if that one didn't work, like we're calling relatives, family members to come pick us up, and we're going to ride in, like, back then you didn't worry about seatbelts. So we'd be sitting down in the floorboard and, driving an hour to the big city. Was there ever any mentors or, like within the church there, or somebody who kind of took you under their wing, or is it just, you just had to make your way?
There's definitely a lot of mentors. Super fortunate for that. In the church, I was in our youth group and everything like that. My mom made sure we were involved in that. And it was actually is a very we had a great crew, honestly. Throughout so I went to Catholic high school also, but like a lot of the other kids in my youth group where I went to church, they went to the local public school kind of in the area, like near where the church is. So I like knew a lot of those people from like, just around my neighborhood. But yeah, it was cool to just get in with a good group of people, even like public school. Like I was at a Catholic high school. So, I mean, that just because it's a Catholic high school doesn't mean there's no shenanigans. There's plenty of shenanigans. The community is, I think, a little different, but having that firsthand witness of like, I have a core group of friends that are in public school and they're still very faith driven, even as teenagers and stuff like that. And a lot of them, like just some peers just gave me some really good examples of like, man, like I always wanted a big brother. And I'm like, man, some of these guys are like, they just really, I locked on to them, right? I recognized that's what I wanted to be like. And thankfully it was good because I saw a lot of bad. I saw a lot of bad in my neighborhood, saw a lot of bad just kind of growing up. And it's like, I don't want to become that. And so I was able to, I think from a very young age, kind of lock onto good people and just want to be with them. It's like, I don't know. I just want to be next to you. Right.
Yep.
I don't even know if I've been in here. I just want to be next to you and just kind of follow along and do the things like just go where you're going and just watch. Right. I was definitely like, how do you, just watching everything like, okay, well, how does he do this? How does he do that? How does he talk to this person? How does he talk to this girl? How does he talk to his mom when his mom's yelling at him? Like, what does he do? That's how I'm supposed to be. Right. Cause I didn't know. My father was kind of around. My parents had joint custody. They got divorced when I was very young, like prior to 2 years old. I can't remember. Somewhere in that realm. But I mean, they would get in arguments. He would disappear for months on end. So it's like whatever, right? I didn't really have that strong male presence, so I guess that's why I was like all about like, hey, seeking like a big brother type figure, and then also like just some of the other adult males in the church and just at school, really locking on to them and being open to what they had to say. So yeah, mentors were hugely influential in my life. Did any single one of them have like a driving, this is why I'm going to take the path I'm going to take? Not really. It was just really the common thread between all of whether it's guys my age, or guys a little bit older, right, on sports teams and stuff like that, that I really respected. And, the adult males that were in my life, the strong adult male figures that were in my life were really just good people, I thought, right? Like, okay, this is the goal. That's when I realized like it's not about having the most of this, having the best of that. It's being the best person that you could be really in any situation. It's like just treating people how they should be treated. Or like I say, the platinum rule is like, the golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated.
Hmm.
The platinum rule is treat others better than you expect to be treated. Whether it's 1% or 100%, like it's still better than you expect to be treated. Hopefully that will trickle down, and just be a ripple with no logical ending. So that's where I recognize like, okay, these guys and that are my age, my peers, and these adult males, strong figures that I'm really respecting, they're just good people. And that's what I wanted to do. That's what I'm still trying to do here.
I think something that you touched on there, I figured we were going to touch on more so once we got to the military aspect, which is something that I always am going to echo on this channel, especially to young men that are struggling, or maybe they're not yet, but they're going to get to that age and they will be.
Welcome to Old Ranger, New Dad. Stop drifting and start building the man your future family is counting on. If you're a young man or you know someone who's drifting, feeling stuck, with no purpose, you're not alone. Good news, you're not lazy, you just don't know which direction to go. This is the rare case where your iPhone, Google Maps cannot give you the route. Ironically, with AI and the collective intelligence of the entire internet at your fingertips, ChatGPT will take you exactly where all the masses are going, the wrong direction. If you want to be mentally strong, disciplined, physically fit, and someday be a mentally and physically healthy husband and father, this podcast is for you. Every guest I bring on shares wisdom they learned the hard way. Here's what makes my podcast totally different. I share with you what I teach my own son. No one does that. A lot of the things we share sound simple, and they are simple, but that doesn't mean they're easy. But I can tell you from a lifetime of experience, it is worth it. Are you ready? No one ever is. Let's go.
And that is getting yourself around good quality people. That doesn't mean the cool kids, because it was the cool kids from my high school. Some of the cool kids, she got her new driver's license. They all jumped in her brand new convertible, whatever it was, Mustang. And then when she went 100 miles an hour and slammed into something, and they are all coming to class, in C collars around their neck, and, their life is destroyed, at that early age. Looking for people that are quality people doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily be the people everybody else knows. And finding those weird kids like me, and I'm not putting myself up as the highest quality on the planet, but I found myself surrounded by guys who there was more to them. They weren't going to the love waits for marriage and we're going to save our purity. I went to that class and nobody in there actually did that. And I already knew it because I was on the football team with them. I was on the track team. None of these guys are doing that. They're lying because they're talking about what they're doing with their girlfriends when they're outside of practice. So my whole point was,
For sure.
I ended up finding a couple of guys, and one specifically that I ended up being lifelong friends with. He's a multimillionaire and lives up in Montana and owns multiple businesses. And I'm just like, It's so strange what different avenues you go, but these people will always still be there. I bet if you reached out to any of those guys that were your mentors or people you looked up to, I guarantee you, just based off what you told us, that those people would absolutely drop what they're doing and have a conversation with you and help you if they could.
No doubt. No doubt they would. And vice versa. I would, if they called me in the middle of the night, pick up the phone, like, "Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?" And I would leave because my wife would probably be annoyed that I'm talking on the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
get hit, but
Yep.
that I would still answer, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's mutual.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get to the military. How did you end up deciding on Navy and EOD specifically?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even know what EOD was when I joined the military, and I was young when I decided, right, that I was gonna join the military. It was, it was actually like a great feeling of inadequacy that really drove me to the military. Um, it was September 11th, I can still remember it vividly. I was in 6th grade, right? I was 11 years old. So I was not that old by any means, right? I was very young. And I just remember the whole situation, right? I was at school. It was like a bomb threat, kind of like that's what the school was doing to kind of get us consolidated, like out of the classrooms and whatever. And I'm like, okay, I just thought it was another drill. And that's because that's how everyone was playing it, and because they didn't, I mean, honestly, looking back, right, the teachers had zero clue what was happening, right?
Yeah.
Zero clue. They're just doing the best they can with what they have. And I'm just looking back, like, I'm just this joking. I was a jokester, just joking around. Like, okay, whatever it is, another bomb threat. We're just good. We get out of class, like our normal, like little protocol, we're just turning off the lights, whatever. We're being consolidated in like the teachers' lounge. Like my class, I went to a very small school, so it was like me and another, like our class, our 6th grade class, and I think we were with maybe the 7th graders in the teachers' lounge, right? And the TV was on. I was like, this is crazy. We get to watch TV during this thing, and then we're like paying attention to what's on the TV, and it's tower. The towers are just smoking, right? They're just smoking, and I'm like, what is happening? And I'm like, is this real? Is this a movie? Like, what? And then we realized it was the news, and the teachers are like crying, like some of them. And we're like, something is really happening here. And 11-year-old me, did not understand really what was going on, the gravity of the situation at all. And then it's like, it just became every second we're in there just watching and waiting and seeing new information and hearing the stories coming out of like people jumping out of the windows and just like crashing. Like you could hear it on the news, like this, the bodies hitting the ground, because they're just like, okay, you know, we're stuck up here and that's that, right? And this is what's going on. And I was like, that's crazy that this is actually happening right now. And then the towers collapse and we see that, and it's just like you could hear a pin drop. Everyone's just like, what is going on, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, I see some of the guys, right, that I respect, the older guys, and like the older kids, and some of them are like, 17, 16, 18, and they're like, we're going, we are going to go to the military and we're just going to do this. I'm like, well, what can I do? And I'm just like, nothing. You literally can do nothing, right? And me talking to myself again, I guess this has always been a thing with me, that I'm now realizing. But I'm just like, I want to go to like the firehouse and help them take out the trash. Like what, I was just like thinking of
Hmm.
anything that I could possibly do as an 11-year-old kid to contribute in some way, shape, or form. And it's like, okay, no one's even at the firehouse because they're all down, right? They've gone to the city, right? They've all. I mean, Syracuse is about a 4-hour drive up from New York City, and so like they're gone, right? I mean, they have like minimum manning, whatever, and they're just like, that's it. Like we're needed down here. Don't catch your house on fire, pretty much, and because there's need, and that wasn't even a question. I feel like, which is another great example of like, man, people are just answering the call and they're going to where they need to be. They're not sticking around. They're just like going. I mean, I'm sure that was a rough, like, I don't know what obviously the dynamic was at the local firehouses for up in Syracuse of like, okay, we're going to send XYZ, and then like ABC will be here, and then you guys will come back, and then so on and so forth. So many people didn't come back, right? Because they were just going to volunteer and just like they're stuck down there. And so yeah, it was wild to see, but also the inadequacy that I felt is like I literally can't do anything. And I was 11. This was 2001. So I still had 7 years before I could go into the military. I was like, well, it's going to be over by then. And, we're going to go get them. And the people that did this, which I really didn't understand that either. And that was that. And so as I got older and older, I was like, okay, well, then the emphasis to just be a good person. And it's like, okay, well, these people just died for literally no reason. Um, the civilians in the towers, right? Then now we have fire and police officers just going down there, like from all over the area, and some not making it out, and they're just going to help total strangers. I was like, that is amazing. That what they are doing is amazing, and that is what I need to do. Like I need to
Mhm.
do something like that with my life because what is like, and I took a look around where I was. I was like, this is a dead end. This is
Mm.
toxic. I'm going to end up like my family members that are just like stuck in their ways and just like doing the same thing over and over again, like down the road. My classmates that are just, I can tell, like, I mean, like kind of you allude, it's like, it's strange how things pan out, but it's like, the guys and gals that are going to graduate and do the same exact thing that they're
Mhm.
doing now, just all rinse, repeat for the rest of their lives. And they're going
Mhm.
to be stuck in that for the rest of their lives until they have some kind of come to Jesus moment where it's like, I need to wake up and actually do something. So I just didn't want that to happen. And so I just took every stride then to prepare myself to go into the military. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in the military at all. Like I didn't know any of the jobs. I didn't know what branch I wanted to go in. I thought I was, and like 11-year-old me, I was like, oh yeah, I'll go into the Air Force and be like what is it, a Thunderbird pilot. I'm like, that has literally nothing to do with combat whatsoever. And like, it's just nuts, right? That's just like the mind of 11-year-old me. It's like, that's what I'm
Yeah.
going to do to help out. And so as I got older, the invasion of Iraq happened. And then that's still like that. Again, that feeling of inadequacy, it's like I'm too young to literally do anything, and this is just happening, and we're just like we're sending our troops over, and I'm stuck in school still, and I can't do anything. So I think that was just really reinforced, and then I had a lot of good mentors stood up for me when I didn't deserve it, when I really, really didn't deserve it. But I don't know what it was. They must have seen like I don't know. Sometimes people recognize the best in you when you're blind to it. And I truly appreciate those guys that stepped into my life and did that for me because again, it's a slippery slope where I lived and I made some bad decisions that could have very easily spiraled out of control and just like had way different trajectories for my life. And I use the term trajectory as like just for a lack of a better term because there would be no trajectory. It would just be a downward spiral into a pit, right? And then
Mhm.
rinse, repeat. I'd be nothing, probably be dead in a ditch somewhere. And that just didn't happen, right? Because people intervened when they didn't have to and went to bat for me. And I'm like, why is this happening? You know, pull your head out of your ass and press on. What you were alluding to, the right guys, the strong guys, the real good guys aren't always the coolest guys. I played 3 sports. I was in and around, like, I was in the cool crowd, right? But I also had a lot of friends that were not necessarily in the cool crowd. Like, I was friends with everyone, I like to say. My wife just says I was a flirt, but whatever. I was just a nice guy, not just the girls. Like, obviously, I was very friendly with the girls, but the guys too, right? I would talk to everyone. I'm still like that. And that's just I don't know. I just like talking to people and gleaning other perspectives and like yeah, some of the not cool kids kind of like were apprehensive talking to me or like defensive talking to me and I probably came off as a little aggressive and sometimes we butted heads and I was like, dude, I'm not at you because you're not part of my group. It's just like you're just treating me like with a lot of disrespect and that's not cool. And I'm not the one that's going to sit idly by and let that happen.
Mhm.
For everyone that I wasn't really friendly with or, had kind of butted heads with, it was probably because they did things that were my biggest pet peeves, right? Because, the things we do ourselves, like that's what we dislike in other people is our biggest pet peeves that we do. And, that's probably what I just recognized like, man, I don't want to be like that. And even some of the cool kids were just like some of my very close friends were just like total dicks to other guys and girls, like just how they treated them. That's not me. That's not how I want to be. That's not how I want to live my life. I'm not that guy. Right.
A
I
lot of a
sure I
lot of ego at that age. That's like even good guys can get caught up in that when they're that young, but it's sorting
yeah.
yourself out and that self-talk you're talking about. Honestly, I haven't heard anybody really ever say that on my podcast, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about that. I know I talk to myself. I always thought that's not normal, so I don't share that information, but yeah, I'm glad you did. But you still do that to this day is the way it sounds, like helping
Yeah.
yourself understand and kind of sort through things. Is that right?
Yeah. There's just so many things that I just didn't understand as a kid. And like maybe it's because single mom, she's working all the time, and she did show me like how like what work ethic actually was, and I just didn't like she did the best she could. This is not a hit on her. She did the best she
Uh-huh.
could what she had, you know. Granted, I don't want to justify some of the crazy stuff that she just did and put in situations she put me and my sister in. I just didn't have that strong like, "Dad, this is what's going on in my life and I don't understand it" type deal. Or just like anyone's like, that I'm like really frustrated because we got these things deep in ourselves and deep in our souls and our hearts, and it's like it like infuriates us to the nth degree, and then that just like puts us in a bad mood. And if we don't talk about it, we don't have anyone to talk about it, it's going to come out in the worst possible way, right? And
Mhm.
I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sure
Snowball
a lot
effect.
of you guys
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about and have felt it or feel it right now. You can invite that person into the conversation. It's like, dude, what are we doing? Like, look in the
Mhm.
mirror. Like, you can anyone all day except for the dude staring back at you in the mirror. He knows you.
Mhm.
He knows all of you. He knows what you do when no one's looking. He knows what you do behind closed doors. He knows what you're thinking at all times, right? So you cannot BS that guy that's staring back at you. And that was like early on, like I didn't realize that until much later. But now it's like that's what I do. It's like talk to the guy in the mirror. Number one, you should pray. I think that is excellent. I think it's excellent meditation. I think it's excellent for sleep. I think, and that might come off as bad, but sometimes when I just have a lot of intrusive thoughts, I just start praying. I'm going to say 10 Hail Marys and see if I can make it that far with a clear head. Or if I like get to one or half and I'm just like spiraling back to whatever I'm thinking about, or I fall asleep, it's so one of those things is going to happen. And if I'm spiraling back to what I'm thinking, just kind of recognize that. And I just take a couple deep breaths and start over and just do it. Right. And
Good.
that has significantly helped me out. But yeah, I always like to invite my younger self into the conversation, especially when I'm experiencing something that I thought I would never experience. I just took my family to Disney. Right? We got back a couple weeks ago before I ran the marathon. And I just have these moments where I'm like, dude, if my 10-year-old self could see me right now, like it would just blow his little mind. And in that moment, I'm like, let's bring him up here and look at it. So it's like I go back to that guy. I'm like, sorry. It just like really touches me. Like it touches me in a really profound way and I'm so grateful for it, right? Because he made it. Despite all the stuff, he made it. And it's like, we're on the plane. Obviously, I have 3 mama's boys, so they're just wanting to sit with mom. So she's like over there across the aisle. I'm supposed to have one of them with me. She has them all. And I'm just like, have this great opportunity to just like look at my wife, right? And just see our kids just like going nuts and her just smiling through it all. And it's like, you made it. You made it, dude. It's all worth it, right? So it's like, if I could go back and talk to him, and this is like this really helps out now, right? This helps me deal with my now, because I can go back then to something traumatic or a crazy scenario or whatever the case may be, whatever timeline it is, go back to that moment and be like, dude, it's so worth it. It's so worth it, and this is not permanent. It's gonna be all right. And then just give them a lesson. It's like nothing is permanent, right? It's only temporary. You can do anything, right? Just press on. Just don't stop moving. Just keep going, and it will be so worth it. You'll see. And then be like, look at it, right? That's going to be you. It's just going to take a long time to get here and a lot of pain and suffering, but it is so worth it. So and that just like makes it feel better. Like, I don't know what therapy that is called, right? But it works. And so, yeah, that's what I, I would highly recommend to the guys listening, right? To you guys, just like invite your younger selves in, go back to those moments where you're like, dude, that sucked and whatever. Like, even if it's a very traumatic event, like, I'm not trying to get you triggered here or anything like that, but seriously, go back, look at something that you are tremendously grateful for in your life right now and just invite him up. Like, look at what we did. Like, you did this, right? And I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. So, like, I don't know. It helps me out. I don't know if
Brother,
that makes me
that's
crazy
powerful.
or
No,
what.
that's powerful. It's interesting that you bring this up. Again, this is why I love doing podcasts that aren't script with a bunch of specific questions, because this is something I just worked on with a guy who helps veterans. The podcast that I'm about to put out this week is a first responder who watched the second plane hit the tower, and then he went and dug for bodies for weeks on end. He was in the Marine Reserve at the time. And then he says on my podcast that he overcame PTSD. So then we have to get the guy on who he claims healed his PTSD. And I mean, like, not able to sleep, not able to eat pork because of 9/11 and that's what he remembers the smell being like. And that
I bet I can
guy,
guess what both guys are talking about.
absolutely. And that guy, I have a conversation with him. So we had a 3-way podcast. It was more of a 2-way. It was just those two talking, and I sat and recorded it. But he did the exact same thing that you just described with me. One of my earliest childhood traumas, I was violently sick, throwing up. It was horrible. With like the flu was always, everything was the flu if it was really bad when I was a kid. They never took you to a doctor, so it was just the flu. It was on Halloween. So somebody had to be stuck at home with Seth while everybody else went to the big city to go trick-or-treating. And my cousin uncle, long story, his mom committed suicide and that my grandparents adopted him. So he was raised as my uncle, but actually he turns out to be my cousin. But he was much older than us, and he was super evil. He was. So all the Halloween movies or Children of the Corn played, we watch it. And then afterwards he says, hey, you know what? Here's a mason jar. Go out into the cornfield, because we lived out on a ranch, and go catch grasshoppers, because I'm going to go fishing tomorrow. Since you made me stay home, you're not allowed back in the house until that mason jar is full of grasshoppers. And I'm violently sick, and there I was. He shoved me into the cornfield, and I
Holy
couldn't come
smokes.
back. Right. So that's exactly what he described. He had me go back to that moment, and it took a while for me to really be able to focus, because I've got that ADHD brain, even though it's never been diagnosed. I finally get it, and I talk to myself as a kid. What would you tell your now knowing where you are today? What would you share with him? And then after I kind of talked myself through that, he said, okay, now Jesus is also standing there beside you guys. Now, what would he say to this young man who knows that he's going to, try to live as a Christian and try to shed that light as he gets older, and on a podcast with who knows how many someday that might ever see this, including his lineage. So that's powerful. But again, I'm just learning this, and you sharing that kind of blows my mind. Again, nothing is an accident. And Dan,
Both of them are awesome guys. Yeah.
Yep.
Dan Jarvis is the man.
Yeah.
He's the absolute man. And yeah, I've talked with him a lot about this. Like, does this make me crazy that I just talk to myself all the time? He's like, no, it's like, it's what we do with, trauma resiliency protocol and all of the things that he does. I know that process, and I just do it. Like, I don't have to go back and like search and like, cause it's a whole thing, right? It's fantastic, but you can do it like micro amounts throughout the day or throughout like wins. Like I seriously, I do this now with wins, stuff that I'm like, when I'm experiencing something, I'm like, I'm just so blessed and grateful that this is even happening. I'm like, come on up, little man, come on up, 10-year-old me, and look at what you did,
Yeah.
and that makes it feel so much better and more important. And I think it just really put stuff in perspective about like what's actually important. We hustle and grind to make ends meet, or we just like try to make as much money as we can sometimes. And I'm all about it. I'm not saying don't make money, but it's very easy to get lost in why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And that really puts it in perspective. My wife is a pediatrician and she's like working. She's part time. She wants to be home with the kids a lot. I respect that and
Mm.
support her in that. But we have a nanny to kind of help out. And, we've been through a couple different ones. And there are times where we're in between and we're trying to search for a new one. And there's times where it's like, my wife works on Wednesdays and Fridays where it's like, okay, well, cool. With my schedule, we don't necessarily need a nanny because I'll just make sure I have Wednesdays and Fridays off so I can be here. And I'm like, I think it was an Alex Hormozy thing. He's just talking, it's like, at the end of my life, right? If I have, X amount of millions of dollars or $1 billion, like if I'm 70, and he's like talking about the wisdom of the ages. It's like everyone always asks, like, they're like, I wish I spent more time with my family. And he's like, well, how do you actually execute that? You know? And he's like, if I had $1 million right here and it was like I'm 70 years old and I pay this money and I go back to when I'm 30, I would pay that. Right. And I'm pretty sure anyone would, right? Anyone would do that. Like, how much money would you pay to go from where you are now back so you can relive that, or, go back so you can have more time? And he's like, just spend the time now. Don't have the money and just spend the time now. And I'm like, that is powerful. That really does put into perspective when you're like, okay, yeah, we're not going to make this, maybe this finance goal, which we can talk about finance later, the freedom, you want the freedom to be able to do that. And so, yeah, it's like, I'm very fortunate again. And it's like, yeah, I spend a ton of time with my kids and it's
Mm.
like, I'm so blessed and fortunate for that. And sometimes when it's crazy and it's hectic and I'm kind of over it, and it's like, I think back to those times where it's like, man, this is like truly a blessing that we have this time right now. And if I ruin it by being upset and being in my own way and like not being grateful for the blessings in my life, that's time wasted, right? And that is
Yeah.
time we'll never get back.
Right.
And I'll be at the end of my life and that's what I'm going to think about. Those moments are the ones I'm going to think about, like, I want to get those back. So now I've kind of shifted. It's like, I don't want to think about that at the end of my life. I want to have very little amounts of those so I can just look back and like, yes, that was so awesome.
Well,
And I'm done.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that you touched on something there that I definitely want to go back and delve into for a second. Just because, again, I come from family with no high school graduates around, and it sounds good if you're in that place as a kid that you want to spend your time with your kids and your family and those things, because that's what I'm doing too. I could be out doing more hustling to make more money, but I wouldn't be spending the quality time right now with my son in these formative years, as he's, about 2.5 years old. And I have literally been there for almost every day of his life. And that
That's awesome.
there's nothing in any retirement account. There's no car. There's no house. There's no lake house that's worth giving up that time and giving up that influence and the joy that you have. And I think that, kids, of course, today, whatever it is now, it was like 80% last time I heard, everybody wants to be an influencer because they want they understand that they want time to just do whatever they want. And a lot of times that's vacations and but they're not focused on the family and on those things that when you look back at those mentors, the good people were the people that focused on other people and investing in other people, including their family, and not focused on cars and bigger houses and nicer cars, and those things would be my guess. Am I right, or
100.
would I be wrong? Exactly. And that's what you're going to find. No matter how old you are, your entire life, you could bang your head on a rock all you want. It's never going to change. It can't change, because no car is going to give you, no matter how nice a Ferrari you get into, sitting down with your son as he falls asleep in your arms when your wife can't get him to go to sleep and he's fussy and he needs a nap, but you know how to get him to go to sleep. There's no car ride there. I don't care how many people look at you when you drive by. That means nothing. your son being able to go to sleep in your arms and knowing that he's safe and that he's protected. And there's a lot of kids out there that have been hurt by other people that didn't have a protector, that didn't have a father at home, that didn't have somebody, a mentor there to really show them the way. And I know a lot of my family went through that, and some of my cousins had all their kids taken by the state. And I'm literally talking on the phone with one of my cousin's children who's in prison and is looking to get out. And it's like, her life has been so horrible. They get the same opportunity I had. I just chose, you know what I mean, to put forth effort and work hard. Like, you end up in the Navy EOD. Like you said, you didn't even know what the EOD was. Same thing. I didn't know. I had no idea what an infantry heavy weapons specialist was in the Marine Corps, and I just signed up because it sounded like the hardest thing I could find. And then the same thing, I joined the Rangers. I was wearing a tan beret and still didn't know what I did as a Ranger because I was a Fort observer. I literally still don't even know what I do, and I am that thing. Just to make me feel old, you said that 9/11 happened, you were 11 years old. I had been in the Marines for a year and a half at that point. And yeah, it's
That's
always funny
insane.
when I talk to people and like, where were you on this date? Yeah, I was, the last episode I put out was the Jessica Lynch mission. That was in 2003. Like, that's what I was doing when you were a little kid. It's wild.
Yeah.
But getting back to now.
I was getting detention in 7th grade and you were freaking doing HRs,
Exactly.
laying in poop.
And laying in poop, absolutely. Falling down in that poop, laying in it. So let's get back to how you ended up with the Navy EOD contract in your hands. And again, how did your hand get guided to sign that piece of paper? And what was that process like for you, coming again from your background?
It was definitely not straightforward. I will say that. I, again, didn't know what EOD was. And when I graduated high school, there's like a lot of my friends are like, I was enlisting with one of my buddies. I was in Sea Cadets, aka the Sea Weenies. That's what we called it. But it was like, it's like the Navy version of Boy Scouts for like kind of those of you that don't know what that is. And I didn't know what it was. I kind of did it so I could get E3 out of boot camp. So it was like a means to an end, but I mean, I had a good time, and I met some pretty cool people when I was there. And yeah, it was, and I have like some crazy stories from Sea Cadets also. But my buddy and we were going to enlist at the same time and leave at the same time. But then he's like, I'm going to go later. I'm like, dude, I cannot have a summer here in Syracuse. I will like get arrested, lose my contract, do something stupid. Like, I need to go. Like, I just need to get out of here. This is toxic for me. I've already come to that conclusion. I need to get out of this situation that I'm in. Like, kind of what you just like were alluding to. It's like, you have the same opportunities and your family members have the same opportunities. Like, everyone has the same opportunities here. And I'm like, I'm going, right? Because the opportunity means absolutely nothing if you don't do anything about it, right? I depped in when I was 17, delayed entry program, because I knew I was going. And I got the first date that I could after graduation. So I graduated in June something, right? June something. I left July 8th, right? Of 08. That's when I shipped out. And I had a SEAL contract, right? Because I was like, I don't know I literally had no idea what EOD is. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I went to the recruiter's office, like, this is kind of me. I played 3 sports, blah, 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 blah. He's like, have you thought of special operations? You seem pretty athletic. I was like, sure. I read Lone Survivor, great book, all the things, whatever. And I'm like, that sounds pretty awesome. Yeah. How can I do that? And it's like, take the ASVAB, did that. And they're like, yeah, you can do it. What do you want to do as a backup? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I want to do as a backup? Like, this is like my mentality at the time. And honestly, kind of still right now is like, that's what I just told you what I wanted to do. I don't need a backup, right? I'm telling you what I'm going to do. And my wife can attest to this too. When we put our mind to something, I will just not rest until it's done. Unless it's a project around the house, I will start 50 of those simultaneously.
Yeah.
That's a totally different brain wave function, right? So I go in. He's like, you should really pick out, and this is a recruiter. And I think this kudos to this one recruiter that I know, because he was actually helpful. He's like, I really, really recommend that you get a second rating, right? In the Navy, it's like your MOS is called your rate. And I'm like, nah, I don't need it. I'm going to be a SEAL. It's going to be sick. And he's like, okay, right? I tried. sign the papers, boom, you have a SEAL contract. I was like, awesome, let's go. And so, I was doing all these things like going to Dive Motivator PT. There's like a whole program that you get in to do these things. It took I didn't even know how to do the side stroke, for the record. As I'm saying all this stuff about me, just like,
That's
that's what I
awesome.
want to do. I'm going to do that. I'm like, I don't even know what's on the physical assessment exam. And so it's like, yeah, you got to do this. I'm at the thing, right? I'm at the physical fitness test to actually, then now I signed the contract to actually get the contract. I got to pass a PST, a physical screening test. I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that. Right. I'm pretty athletic, whatever. It's just like the swim. And I'm like, I'm really good. I was on a swim team, but it's like, you have to do the side stroke. I'm like, what is the side stroke? And they're like, I'll demonstrate it once, then you're going to go. And I'm like, you know, and because I had no idea what that was. It was my form was horrible. Like, I knocked the push-ups, sit-ups, the run out, whatever, but the swim, I'm like, that almost killed me because it's like totally different, right?
Mhm.
It's not freestyle. It's not any. It's a lot of technique. I
Mhm.
won't get into it now because this is not a swimming podcast.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is I put the cart before the horse, right? As like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Wait, there's some homework that I should have done to realize even how to even get in. But miraculously, right, I passed by 3 seconds. I felt awful. I'm not bragging about that by any
Mhm.
means. That's horrible. You should never go into a physical screening test
Nope.
and pass by 3 seconds. You should crush it. And that's what I vowed to after. I was like, holy smokes, what am I getting myself into? And I kind of like now, thankfully, had a dose of reality, a taste of what I was kind of getting myself into, of not the physicality of it, but like the fact that you don't know anything aspect of it. I'm like, okay, cool. I will receive this lesson and I'm going to train this. So I did. That's what I focused on. My other buddy that I enlisted with, he was like awesome at it. So, I trained with him and I really got some better technique, was able to kind of crush the test, the next subsequent test. And so I'm at boot camp with my SEAL contract in hand, my shiny SEAL contract. I got it, right? I'm going to go do the thing. I'm in boot camp. Now I'm badass because I'm in Navy boot camp with a SEAL contract in a spec ops division. So we get extra PT and everything for all the other big Navy guys. That would have been like a horrible punishment, but like we're like
Mhm.
PTing in our barracks before we even like get out of P days, our processing days. The RDCs come in, they're yelling at us for like, they're like, stop working out, just stop. Like, we didn't want to run. So we're doing push-ups and sit-ups at night, whatever.
Mhm.
As you can imagine, that probably didn't go over too well. But they're like like that's just what it was, right? That's kind of cool for me to experience that. But then, right, we got these cool ball caps, right, in boot camp, and they said like EOD Mobile Unit 3. I'm like, what is that? And apparently this is a thing. I didn't realize this was a thing. Apparently it is a thing. Some units will sponsor divisions, boot camp divisions in the Navy. Like, so across the Navy, you could sponsor a boot camp division with your unit for whatever reason. Like, they get a t-shirt, a hat, you go out there, you PT with them, you talk about your unit and your
Mm.
command and stuff like that. So sometimes that happens, not very often. So total luck of the draw here. Okay. Total luck of the draw. My boot camp division is sponsored by EOD Mobile Unit 3. I'm like, cool. I have no idea what that is. Whatever. They come out. I'm like, so what is EOD? Right? That's the boom, the shot heard around the world. Right?
Right.
That was me right there.
Mhm.
And they're like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, whoa, this sounds legit. It's pretty much what I want to do right now with the SEAL contract, but you get to work with everyone else, not just SEALs. I'm like, that
Mhm.
sounds legit. That was like the biggest thing that piqued my interest. I was like, that is so cool. Also, you don't have to go to buds. I was like, that's kind of cool too. So I was like, okay, two really good pros. Now the huge con is I pretty much have to tell the dive motivators over here that
Yeah.
I don't want to be a SEAL anymore and I want to go EOD. So I was like, all right, let me talk to the EOD guy first. And he's kind of a weirdo, honestly. I forget his name, but that was my perspective of EOD. I was like, this guy
Right.
is weird, okay? But these guys are legit, and okay, I'm just gonna go talk to him. So I was like, hey, and I wish I could remember his name. I really wish, because he was a great guy, and he was all about it. I
You just
walk into
called
the
him
office.
weird 3 times, so I think it's better that we don't
Yeah,
remember his name.
that's true. That's true. But he would probably own it, and a lot of EOD guys are weird, including myself. But yeah, so I go into his office. I'm like, so and so student on deck, blah blah blah, and he's like, what do you want? And like, Seaman Recruit Lee, what do you want? I'm like, I was just looking to reclass to EOD. He's like, drinking coffee, not looking at me, of course. Why would he ever look at me? We're having a conversation. He's like drinking his coffee. He like does like the Dr. Evil turn around his chair, you know? What did you just say? And I'm like, I want to see if I can switch my SEAL contract to EOD. If that's even a thing, I don't know. I figured I'd talk to you first. He's like, sets his coffee cup down, like hard on his desk. It's like, oh my God, I'm about to get like my shoot or something. And he's like, that is fantastic. And he's like, yes, we can do that. Stand over there. But he goes out of the office. I'm like, okay, cool. This is kind of nice. And then he like goes next door to the SEAL guy. And then I was like, oh man, this is gonna be rough. So then
Mhm.
they come back in with like SEAL guy in tow, and he's like, what the fuck? Seaman recruit Lee, you think you can just do whatever you want, blah 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 blah. It's like in my face, like really upset. You know, he's like, you didn't even come talk to me first, blah blah blah, and like really just trying to like, you know, that intimidation factor. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, I haven't done anything yet, so I can switch, right? And this is like kind of the thing that was like kind of in my soul. It's like, you need to switch to EOD. That's what
Mhm.
you want to do. Like this is
Mhm.
what this is where you're going, right? Something inside me said that, right? Whether it was God, 10-year-old me, whatever, both, is like, do this, right? Do this. And I was like, okay, I will listen, and that's what I'm gonna do. So that's what I did. SEAL guy was not happy about it, but then Hoodie guy was like super jazzed about it, and he's like, "This literally never happens, right? This literally never happens. It's usually you know, like you fail out for whatever reason, you quit, and then it's like you reclass to EOD. You know, like that's like you know they're called buds duds. We have a lot in EOD, but you know, like that's
Yeah.
what we would always like you know lovingly call the buds duds. You know, that's just what
Yeah.
they are. So yeah, he was super pumped. Is like, yeah, he just came in. Is like, yeah, this is what I want to do because he had a conversation with an EOD guy, and like they knew each other, like the
Mhm.
Mobian 3 guys. So he's like, yeah, I talked to them, and they're like, hey, we heard what you did. And I was like, it was awesome. And I was like, I was like, you know, I don't even like this is crazy. Like, I don't even know how often you guys. He's like, this is literally the first time we've ever sponsored a boot camp division, and so yeah, good thing we did because we got one.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, the rest is history. I never looked back, and you know, it was that was my pathway to EOD. Didn't even know what it was. Had a couple of conversations with some dudes from Mob Unit 3, and yeah, um, one of them is no longer with us, unfortunately. But yeah, the other guy's still alive. I talked to him. I like we're in the same EOD brothers group, you know, on Signal, whatever. And no, it's cool how things just work out sometimes.
So I had said before that I was going to circle back to this now because of our previous point about you talking to your younger self. So now knowing where you went and knowing what you've been able to do in EOD, going back to yourself at whatever age, what would you tell yourself as far as would you still take the exact same route you went, or would you have tried buds, or like what would that conversation be like if you're 100% honest with yourself? Is there any part of you that kind of regrets? Is it 100% you know exactly this is the way that God meant it for you? Or I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, no, the only other thing that I would have done in the military is probably be an A-10 pilot, knowing what I know now, because that
Mm-hmm.
is legit. Those guys are my heroes, but and gals. But
Mm-hmm.
no, like to this is no, I don't think I and it's hard to say, right? Because like if I tell him, right, I'm like, just go EOD right out of the gate, dude. Trust me, it's awesome. Look this thing up. Like, who knows what timeline that would have been? I mean, granted, it should be the same timeline because it's like boot camp, same thing. Granted, my orders didn't come through right away after I graduated boot camp. Granted, it was only like a couple days.
Yeah.
But I will say this, you know, especially if there's like active duty guys that are still listening or that are listening that are still in, and it's like dude, everything in my career, I was not hand selected for jack and squat, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was luck of the draw. I showed up at the right time, at the right place. The stars were aligned, and it's like this is what's happening. And you just like the thing that you can do, right? The only thing that helps you stay on that trajectory and doing the things is being prepared, right? Being a consummate professional at whatever your job is, like doing it to the like above and beyond degree. So you are just ready. Like I was a new guy. I checked in. We were slotted to deploy to Helmand to support the Marines down in Helmand, right? Doing RCP, route clearance patrols. So it's like the bomb patrol, Afghanistan, right? That's what we were slotted to go do, my platoon. And then halfway through our workup, and an RFF comes down from the Ranger Regiment, and it's like specifically written for Navy EOD, because Army has EOD, but it was specifically written for Navy EOD just because of the things that we can do. And we picked it up. And it was my platoon to like, okay, cool. Who's getting ready to go? Cool. We'll shift this platoon over to support that RFF, request for forces. And I was like, okay, that sounds legit. A lot of my higher ups, like the mobile unit leadership, I was at mobile unit 12, and the Dirty Dozen is what we call ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you have like 4 new guys on this platoon. We have to move these bodies around. Like there's no way those new guys are going to go, me being one of them. So I think our company SEA, he was the senior chief. He comes in, and I think it was like trying to like a scare tactic, like, if anyone wants to be off the platoon because of this reason or whatever, this is very risky. It's not what we're doing before. It's like really don't have like the time to get a ton of training before we go. Like it's just, you've been doing a combat expeditionary support workup, which is like for bombs. So I'm not like discrediting that, but there's a lot more like dismounted training that we would do otherwise as that type of platoon that we just didn't do because we were a mounted platoon, right? We were going to be in vehicles. We were going to have bomb suits. We were going to have robots. We're going to have all the tools that you can think of that EOD guys have at our disposal. And now it's like, nope, you're going to have what you can carry. And it's a specialized skill. You're going to be potentially going hands-on IEDs and blah, 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 blah. Right. So we're like, okay. I'm like, cool. I trust the training. I'm in it. Right. That's what I want to do. This is, I'm not going to quit my platoon. I haven't quit anything so far, except for my SEAL contract back in the day. And that was the best decision of my life. So I'm not quitting this. My best friend at the time, he was also my roommate, calls me on the way home and he's like, dude, I took myself off the platoon. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, explain yourself. Are you thinking about this? I'm like, just think about it. Just sleep on it, dude. And because it's a great opportunity. And we have an like our platoon head shed was awesome, dude. Tons of experience. These are the guys that you wanted as a new guy, right? They're like, yes, they will hold you to the coals if you mess up for sure. But they were in EOD. It's not really about just pounding the new guys. It's like, yeah, you're going to get pounded as a new guy no matter what. But the emphasis is on training. Like you will get trained. They will teach you everything you need to know. You need to show up though and be able to receive it. And they will pour into you as long as you're showing up and working hard. They will continuously pour into you. The moment you mess up, it's going to be, yep, there's going to be some coals involved, but it's all for, yeah, obviously it's a new guy, right? You do shit jobs, whatever. You just do it. You got to do those jobs better than anyone else. And you take the trash out like no one has ever seen the trash being taken out before in their life, right?
Exactly.
Right. You just do it. And then that just because that just shows that you're ready. And for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, it's like if they're doing that with the trash, they're going to do really well with this. And then boom, that's just how it happens. Then you move up, you do that job, that next task better than anyone has ever seen it. And boom, it's like, okay, cool. That's just how this guy is now, right? That's the reputation. And so I wasn't about to quit. My buddy, he's like, I already called, our SEA. I already called him and told him that I wanted to be off the phone. I was like, dude, you're an idiot. That was literally my first word to him when he told me. I was like, you are an idiot. Now, as being older and a little, I was like, dude, what are you like? People would kill to be in your position right now. And that was like my first thought. I was like, dude. But kudos to him. He was not ready, and his rationale was like he didn't want to get anyone else killed, right? And I was like, you know what, that's really good self-awareness, and that is pretty courageous if you want to say that. It's hard for guys like us to say that. That kind of still, even though I know the truth, like that still like hurts coming out of my mouth. But it's like, yeah. If you aren't, and that's like the number one thing. It's like if your heart is not in the job and you are like elsewhere, this is not the right job for you.
Yes.
And he realized that as a new guy. So whether that was cowardice or, or just
Courage.
really good self-awareness,
Yeah.
probably a little bit of both at the time, but, good on he's still alive and well, and he's got a family of his own, and who knows, that might not have been the case had he not done that, so,
And that's powerful lesson, right? Because so many people we're both going to be saying the same things because we've both done the same things where we didn't know what it was we were really getting ourselves into, but we jumped at the chance to do it and we prepared ourselves the best that we possibly could to be ready when that time came. You didn't know about side stroke. There's things I didn't know to prepare for, but I prepared the best that I possibly could and over delivered. What you describe as taking out the trash, I want to point this out. How do you take out trash better than anybody else has ever taken it out before? This is my answer to that. You anticipate. The idea is that whenever somebody needs that trash to be taken out, it is taken out the second that it needs to be, and it takes no longer than humanly possible for that to be replaced so that their literal trash can goes from it needs to be taken out to, oh, it's already been taken out. Oh, here's the brand new one. And it's that anticipation, and that one thing carries you everywhere in your career where you're anticipating. When I become a recruiter, I'm anticipating what my boss needs from our team next. And so I jump on it and start building it. Even though I'm not tasked with this, I start working on it. So I get familiarized with the new system we're going to, the new platform, this new AI that's coming in, whatever it is in life, you start anticipating what it is. And that's communication with your boss, communication with your wife. So your marriage works that way too.
Oh, yeah.
Anticipation is how you over deliver. And that's how you set yourself apart from 99.99% of everybody in this generation. And for the kids growing up today, it's so easy for you to stand out. In my day, everybody was working hard. Now, not everybody jumped at the chances and took the risks, but everybody had a level of just decency as a man to perform. Whereas nowadays, so many kids are out of shape and are not even physically able to do Navy EOD if they really wanted to right out of the gate because their body has been sitting on a couch and playing video games their whole life. But I've seen guys, I've served with guys who changed that trajectory, who grew up their whole life out of shape playing video games, and then they decided to be a Marine. And it was rough for him going through boot camp. And it was hilarious whenever he couldn't do a single pull-up, and the drill instructors are absolutely eating him. Every drill instructor from all the companies attacking him at once. It was hilarious for us because I had put in that work. But again, we didn't look down on him like he's a dirtbag. Some did. I didn't because I
It's
already
gonna
knew.
happen.
It's going to happen to you eventually at something because you weren't ready for the side stroke. Something's going to come out that eventually you're going to have to struggle at. And it's that ability to struggle at it and not give up. And what you did was not giving up as a SEAL. You went in knowing this was something hard and it was going to be worth it. But then you were self-aware enough to go, actually, this EOD thing sounds exactly like what my personality would be a great fit for. I'm going to get to work with all kinds of units. If you don't mind, just share like what all units, you don't have to be super in depth, but what all units you got to serve with as Navy EOD.
Yeah, got to serve with the Rangers. We accepted that RFF and deployed with 275, and then did 375 after that, and then we support Green Berets and SEALs. I mean, there's always two Navy EOD guys on every SEAL platoon, period. Like every single, and a platoon, that is like a requirement. And we support the Rangers. I don't know if we still do that. That's kind of like calmed down a lot, especially with the lack of, I don't want to say the lack of, like, as if I'm sad that there's not a war, but
Right.
the
Yes.
population that we come from, it's like, that is kind of a sad thing because we're not doing our jobs. But, from a normal person perspective, that is a good thing that our country is not involved in a war. Yeah. And then Green Berets. Yeah. My last duty station was a parachute proficiency instructor. And because Navy EOD has our own air program, and it's designed to get a level 1 certification, which is a night unknown unmarked DZ wall locker from 30,000 feet, right? So it's a hey-ho, and you're going in, and that is so, like, Green Berets come to that course so they can get that cert. So when they're on like the CRE or whatever they're calling it nowadays, like the Crisis Response Force, the CRIF, or whatever it is called nowadays. But that is like the level 1 cert is needed. they come to PPT, EOD, PPT to get it. And so EOD guys also like that are supporting them. They'll come through as like that CRIF platoon and get that certification to support the Green Berets. So it's like we're very intertwined with every special operations command or organization pretty much that there is. It's great. I call us we're like the ultimate enablers. I that's like my thing for EOD. It's awesome. It was so cool being with the Rangers. I thought that was an incredible experience just from the sheer like it was an experience. I'll say that.
Yeah.
My first it was so I mean that's why, and it was awesome. Like again, I totally lucked out because that's why boot camp Jay was like, I want to go EOD to work with everyone. And I was able to do that. Like I got super lucky, super fortunate. Like right out of the gate, it's like boom, Army Rangers. Next, boom, Navy SEALs. Next, I'm working with Green Berets, giving them the level 1 cert. It's funny because everyone, it's like all the communities are pretty much the same, right? Everyone, like the mentality is very similar. The guys, very similar. And it's like the things, like the tactics are slightly different, right? And so everyone's like, oh, they're so because they go low port, we should go high port. It's like, dude, who cares, right?
Yeah.
And like it's a fun like sibling rivalry, if you will. I mean, that's like the closest thing to equate it because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team, and it's I mean, it's hilarious. Like the SEALs, like back home, if you will, and they're like, "Oh, how was it with the Rangers?" You know, so I was like, "It's actually pretty awesome." I never once wondered about anything that would happen on an op, where it's like, then I'm with the SEAL teams, like, dude, what vehicle am I riding in? Like, I have no idea because everyone's like, too cool. It's like, oh yeah, we're going on this mission.
Explain that a little bit for somebody who's not familiar with it at all. So you're saying with the Ranger specifically during the operation order, when everybody gets together and you go over what the mission is,
yes,
they were a little bit more detailed, is what you're saying.
You'd say they're very regimented. I think there's a perfect word for that. Yeah, the perfect
Ranger
word.
regiment.
It's like, yeah. Except I did have a joke that no one really found funny one night. We were, it was the con op. I was with 3rd Bat at the time, and so I've been with the Rangers for a while now. I pretty much have more time with the Army than the Navy. The con op's happening, right? Everyone's going through their slides, blah blah blah. It's like the EOD slide. I stand, and everyone, right, as you know, like you stand up, Rangers lead the way. My call sign. This is what we're going to do, blah, blah, right? So I stand up. I'm like, EOD clears the way. Silence. Just crickets. I was like, that sucked. I thought that was going to hit. The platoon sergeant, he just like spins around, does the Dr. Evil the same thing. I get this a lot, apparently. He like turns around, just like looks at me and just like, just now. I was like, yeah, got it.
Got it.
So, yeah, got
That's
it.
awesome.
And so, yeah, but it was, I mean, the con op, that was like, dude, in and out. Like, I'm going to be in this bird. I'm going to be in this seat. And I'm going to be next to this person on my left, this person on my right. I'm going to be carrying these things. Like, everyone knew. Like, I knew what you were carrying. I know exactly what you had. You knew exactly what I had. You knew where I was. You knew what bird I was in. You knew what bird I was going to be on leaving. And that's just like, that was the Ranger way, which I was like, dude, this seems like a bit much, honestly. Like, it's like them beating a dead horse. And then I got to the SEAL teams. I'm like, what is happening? I don't even know where I'm supposed to be during this operation. Like, well, I know I'm going to be up front somewhere, but who's going to be with me, right? Who's going to be there? And what do you have? What do you have available? Like, you know, it's crazy the difference. And then it's like, you kind of like work with it. And it's like, okay, cool. I speak your language now. I get it. Right? But that was like the biggest, I would say the biggest difference is just like that regimented con op versus the like, and this is not all SEAL teams and organizations like that, obviously, but like, you know, different tiers conduct themselves differently, I would say. Even as far as, you know, something like a jump master brief, right, is much different on the white side than it is like, you know, like on like a regular SEAL team than it is at the DamNet guys, right? The DevGru guys, which is different than the Delta guys, which I've never done at PBT. We had a lot of former Delta guys as our contractors to kind of teach us like how they taught this exact thing. And that's where I like our jump program. It's modeled after the jump program at DamNet, but DevGru, but it's run like we had a lot of Delta instructors. So like even our curriculum is so like enriched in different like organizations. It's like we're taking this curriculum, which they do, and we're going because that they need the level 1 cert also, obviously, because they're a tier 1 asset. But then it's being taught to us by Army CAD guys. So it's like, man, this is like the different perspectives and everything. And it's like we run stuff, and then I now contract sometimes with the Whiteside SEALs, and I am doing these jumpers. I'm like, dude, and I'm talking like the jump masters that are kind of coming through. I'm like, this is not clear, right? You have to talk about these things. Like, dude, why, man? Everyone gets it, and so, but it's just like the totally different like mentality. It's like, look, and what how it was explained to me by one of our Delta guys is like, we're always with other people. Always. It's not us, right? It's not just you and your bros. Like we have enablers, we have foreign military, we have other people, we have all kinds of people, and we need to know that every single one of them knows every single thing. So I'm not talking to you like you're a child. I'm talking to everyone, so everyone is on the same page. And I'm like, that checks out, and that makes total sense, right? And it's like that is the caliber. It's not like, oh, we're so good, we've made it like this to this tip of the spear, level, and we can just like not talk about stuff anymore. It's like, no, now we're at that level. We need to talk about it more. And the basics become way more important because everyone needs to be completely locked on and on the same page for every single detail. It was a different, I mean, with the Rangers, we were at like, operating in Afghanistan, doing the DA thing and all that. So it was a different ball game, right? When I
Yeah.
was with SEAL Team 8, it was village stability operation, and that was just like it was a show in a different way, right? It was just a totally different job. So yeah, it just like it's not apples to apples. It's just like being a chameleon and being able to adapt in the different situation you're in. It's like we're not going after high value targets anymore with little birds following us.
Yeah.
And, it's like, while that's cool and everything, that is like a totally different realm than going out all day on a village stability operation. It's like that is like the endurance thing. This is like we're doing sprints. Like we're taking turns doing sprints here. I mean, I remember like my ranger buddy, the squad leaders, the different ones that I was with, like who was going to be like on containment or ISO. We'd be in the back of the 47 and we just like give each other the nod, like, I'm going to smoke you to target today, and it's like, that was like the thing. So it's like, as soon as the ramp hit, and this probably became a little complacent on my part because I'm just like an all out sprint. Granted, I've already done the research as far as like the EOD job is concerned. It's like, cool, we picked the HLZs, the lowest threat areas, like we're doing the job. So it's like, it's relatively safe to just run all out without really having to look at it. And it's at night, so whatever. And so the ramp drops and we're just like running the target. And it's like, yes, I got you, dude. And like that became the thing of like racing each other to target. And it was awesome. That
That's
was like
hilarious.
some of the best times I had was doing that. It was a different ball game with the SEALs. Totally. I mean, I love those guys too. I was on a great platoon. It was just different.
Something you touched on there, just like you're still able to have fun and you're still able to have moments of still getting to be a kid. And that's the one thing that whenever I grew up reading Navy SEAL books, because nobody else was writing books, I forget the name of that one book, but I've read it multiple times. And he kept saying in it and explaining, like, when you get to be a Navy SEAL, you can kind of be a little reckless and a little crazy. I remember he climbed the towers at airborne school and tied a Navy SEAL flag up and then, climbed down. So when everybody came out to train the next day for airborne school, there was a Navy SEAL flag hanging from the top of the towers. Well, that's like whatever it was, a couple 100 feet up in the air. And he just literally climbed out there with his arms and ties this thing up and could have died doing this stupid stunt. But that's, especially when combat comes around, because you have to be careful, but at the same time, there's moments where you can sprint all out to get to the objective first and win a foot race, right? That's what you did when you were 5, 10, 8 years old, but here you are in combat and you know that you can do that stuff. One thing you talked about and touched on that I want to make sure everybody understands, number one, Navy EOD is the number one EOD. So just to dispel that, I went through airborne school with 2 guys who were former Marines. That's just a fact. Like, everybody knows it. Nobody who is honest is going to dispute that, because you guys go through more training and just the level of the quality of the people who come out kind of like 160th SOAR. There are more than one 60th unit, but you always want the Kentucky boys to be the ones flying you. And it's the same kind of a thing. Yeah, Army has EOD, other units have EOD, but the Navy guys are the ones you want on your team for that terrible moment, where something really bad has gone sideways and you need the best guy to do it. So that is one thing I just want to dispel. And also, you spent more time with the Army, you spent more time with other units. Most people don't understand, as I didn't know anything about that until I'm there working with an Air Force TAC P. And I'm like, wait, this makes no sense. Why does he live with us completely on base, like he's living on an Army base? When he's deployed, he's only living with us, like he never sees Air Force guys except for the other TAC Ps in our unit. So there's very few jobs like that in the military, but when you get in one like you described, it's phenomenal. And if I were telling myself to go back and I were able to pick, I can't say that I would undo my time in the Ranger Regiment, because I wouldn't. However, if there was a job that I would be more interested in going if I had a second life, it would probably be either Navy EOD, obviously A-10. I don't know that I'm smart enough for that. Not saying Navy EOD is less, but I'm saying Navy EOD or TAC P, or one of the units that's able to work with all kind of PJs that really get to be utilized by all the branches. You get that exposure, you get that brotherhood with these people. And I know from working with the EOD guys and especially the TAC Ps, like, I'm not saying you're the coolest kid, but you're just like, you're outside of all these stupid games we have to play. You guys got shielded from a lot of the stupid and got better pay and got better food in instances than us. So that's the one thing I would say now, because we didn't have Google when I was coming up. Do that research ahead of time if you're looking into the military, so you don't have to get to Navy SEAL program and then go tell a SEAL instructor that you don't want to be a SEAL anymore. Other jobs like TAC P, Navy EOD, is there any other jobs like that where you get to work with all different units from all different branches?
I know, like PJs for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
PJs, TAC Ps are like an EOD. That's like they're everywhere, right? We're intertwined at all levels of, the soft world. And it is just like that's a big one. I mean, for women, the CST program, that was a huge deal. You can kind of get in with, Rangers, CAG, Dam Neck, like whichever, and you can screen for either of those. And that's like a cool thing for the females, where it's just like the opportunity is there, and if you want to put in the work, you can work at one of those units, which is pretty incredible because you wouldn't be able to otherwise. And so, yeah, that was like, and I mean, there's mixed bag on, the CST and all that kind of stuff, but it is a program that exists. And that's like another, opportunity that is out there that I thought was pretty unique. They handled the parrot patch, is what we called it, at 275 and 375. I don't know what the Beach Boys called it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were talking about how regimented 3rd Battalion was whenever they were doing their op orders. I will say, of the 3 Ranger battalions, 3rd Battalion is at the flagpole. So I guarantee you they're the most regimented. The Beach Boys, we are known for being a little bit more lax. And, when I was getting out, most of my buddies were going to the CAG tryouts. And I remember specifically, you know what the percentage is that make it versus who don't, because you know how many guys go away and how many return. And our guys, when I was getting out in 05, was 100%. Every single person we sent got selected. And 275 and 375 was basically the exact same. It was like 50% roughly in that, a little bit above and below. But there's something about the leaders that came through our battalions. 4-star General Clark, who just ran SOCOM and now runs General Dynamics, was my last direct supervisor. Like, I was the battalion commander's assistant / driver, but he was such a phenomenal human being who had spent most of his entire career back and forth in the Rangers, RRD, when that, before it switched over. Every time he was trying to get back into special operations, every opportunity he got. And then you see what plays out. Colonel Thomas, who was with us, both of them are up there with multiple stars on their uniforms as they're, switching out who's in charge of all of special operations. So I think we were just super blessed. And like you talked about before, like God, if you are putting yourself out there, you're going to be put in places that you can look back and go, man, it is insane that I made it through all of that and I got to this place. But you don't get to that place like you and I, where you have stories that people maybe want to listen to, unless you put yourself out there. You go out and run miles when everybody else is sleeping. And for the young guys, especially who are not married, that is a huge benefit. Do not try to go do the routes that we went being married. Like so many guys get so dumb and they find the one, and she happens to be the one from high school that you dated last, and then they get married right out of boot camp, right out of your initial training, and then they try to drag them through this lifestyle, and it's just not meant for a married person. It just really isn't. Your being single is a huge advantage. Take that time and invest it in you and your body and being physically fit, and you have no idea if you'll volunteer the opportunities that you'll get to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to put the work in. Yeah, to your point, there's another meaning to EOD that not a lot of people know. It's everyone's divorced, but that is if they go the route that you just talked about. And I can speak on that. I can't speak on the divorce aspect because I am not divorced. She still loves me.
Yeah. And to your point, my wife actually was in the Marines when CST was, there was the Lioness program, and then they started like creating CST. My wife was a diesel mechanic in the Marine Corps. She was deployed to Iraq, and they reached out to her and were like, hey, if you'd like to be a part of the Lioness program, and da-da-da. And I remember my wife calling me and saying, hey, babe, there's this really cool program. I'm going to be attached to Force Recon. And I get to go through this training, and, they're looking for volunteers. I was like, if you want to stay married, the answer is no. Well, but I haven't even told you. You said Force Recon, and you said extra training for other things. That's not how this marriage works. I got out and you joined, and I'm cool with the 6 years you're putting in. But if you want to go hang out with Force Recon and just be friends, that's not how that works. So
I know that lifestyle.
Yeah. They specifically picked me, honey. Yeah, I know exactly why they picked you.
Yeah. I bet they did.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Awesome.
That
By the way, hey, I don't want to, again, I didn't want to make this podcast just you coming and telling war stories that you've told, many times. Again, I really wanted to focus on how you got to be somebody who's coaching other men that are older than them, that have more money than them, that you're somebody that people are looking to learn how to build that wealth, to have that family. And one of the things you said, like, me and my wife are about to celebrate 18 years together. And man, I waited until I was 27. I had already been in the Marines. I'd already been in the Rangers. I had already spent a couple years in law enforcement, before I ever actually made the decision to marry somebody. And I was going to hold out as long as it took, because that decision was the most important decision aside from becoming a Christian. Giving my life to Christ is number one, but number two is that marriage and who you're marrying. Because even in the military, guess what? If you went in as a cook in the Air National Guard, guess what happens if you show up and crush the PFT? Somebody's gonna come over and go, you don't need to be here. You need to be somewhere else. And that's exactly what happens. CST for females. Guess what? Newsflash, people that are at much higher levels than even the units we've mentioned were females, and they were in there long before Obama and any changes to the military selection process. I know of women who just crushed it on PT all the time and had that mental discipline, and they were literally handpicked out of nowhere and brought up to units that recruit from DevGru, that recruit from Delta, that recruit from the highest units you know of. There's always a way up, and if you put forth the effort and you just take out the trash better than anybody's ever taken out the trash, people are going to pay attention to that, because you don't do that by accident. That happens 100%. If you're always there on time, in the right uniform, right place, right time, that's going to happen for you. And it's just the way life works. You just got to put yourself in those positions. So
yeah. People recognize the intentionality of it,
Mhm,
and that's a very underrated thing, I think, that is not talked about a lot, but it's just, like, the intentionality behind the things that you just said. I mean, that's what people like.
mhm. And that's who you surround yourself with. And then that's what I want to end our podcast on. You talked about the mentors when you were young, finding people that aren't cool, not finding people with the nicest car that have the most money. You're finding people with character. You're finding people you can rely on, and people that want to invest in you and invest time to help you as a young man and to grow up and be mature and do the right things, not do the flashy things. Nothing is more sickening than seeing a kid get success and all of his money goes to a chain around his neck and a nice new car and some super superficial girl with all kinds of cosmetic surgeries at 18 years old. And I'm just like that kid is so lost. I really hope that he makes it. That I'm not looking at that kid with envy because he has more money than me or whatever. It's the exact opposite. I know what that's going to look like in 10 years, and it's not going to be pretty. So
No.
so to that, what would you share with anybody just kind of at the end here?
I would just say put it all in perspective. That's what I do, with like the personal finance side of the house, like you mentioned. Yeah, I've talked to people that are much older than me about their money, and talking to people about their money is sacred, pretty much. Especially like, I mean, I've trusted people with my life. People have entrusted me with their lives. Um, their wives have entrusted me with their husbands' lives, and that is not lost on me. But people trusting you with their money is right up there, if not more so, I would say, than even like, dude, I trust you with my life. Let's go. I could
Mm.
ask that same guy, like, dude, what's your debt to income ratio? Is like, why are you being so personal? Like, dude, chill. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
He's like, hey, don't you want to ask me who I voted for in the last election? I'd rather tell you that.
it's a
Mhm.
huge problem I think that we have in the military still today. We definitely had it when I was in. And it's just like in every circle, I think that I feel like the younger generations are getting better about talking about money more
Mhm.
publicly, but there's still a long way to go because there's a stigma about it, right? We want to just be good with money. We want to be known as being good with money. It's like and it might not even be in this thought, but it's like we're stewards, right? I believe that, right? It's not my money, it's God's money. I am being trusted to steward, just like my kids, right? Those are God's children that He entrusted me to be their parent, right? So that is like a huge stewardship thing that we have to do. Money is no different. It's like what you are given, you are supposed to be a steward of, period. And now, I mean, a lot of people don't think of it that way, but right, I didn't, right? I'm not preaching up here from a high horse or anything. I was terrible with money, right? I was that guy that bought a truck brand new as an E4 with my enlistment bonus and it was gone like that, right? And I didn't even think about
Yeah.
taxes because I was that dumb, right? I was that guy. I was like, cool, this will pay for it. Tax tag title, that's a lot more now than I originally thought. Yeah, there you go. So that's called a stupid tax that I paid. But yeah, I was not always good with money. And that's a huge part of my story about like putting things in perspective, never losing sight of why you do something. And that is way harder than it sounds, right? I can say that all day, but it is so incredibly hard to actually execute that, right? I rose my hand for a reason to support and defend the Constitution, much like you did, much like a lot of other people did, for very deeply personal reasons that everyone may have had or may not have had. But like mine, I feel like we're very personal, very deep, and very like I finally was able to do something, right? Because when I was 11, I felt so inadequate about not being able to do anything. I'm too young, too little, too whatever to do anything to help. And then somehow my path led me to Navy EOD, whose main mission, like if you boil it all down, the mission of Navy EOD and EOD as a whole is the protection of personal and property. That comes out of one of our publications. It is like that is our bread and butter, the protection of personal and property, the very thing that I could not do when I was 11 years old, September 11th. That was like like not even nowhere in my wheelhouse. That was my primary job now. And that's what I rose my right hand to do, to find something like that. And I found exactly what I was looking for. And yet, the lifestyle, the money, the fun, the excitement, the brotherhood, like even the brotherhood can be, it's great. It can also be a negative thing when you get too wrapped up in it and you
Mhm.
forget that there's life outside of that. Right. And that was me. Like that was what I cared about. It's like, oh, these are my brothers. One of the years of a workup, I looked at like one of my credit card statements, and this is like as a five special episode. So it's a little bit more than normal, but still it's E5, right? You're not a millionaire, period. And I spent like $25,000 just in bars alone. Like just in bars alone.
Yeah,
That's not including the truck that I bought. That's bars alone. That is
that's wild.
alcohol, right? That's
Yeah.
insane. And that's where I was. And that's was my, and to justify it, back to the high school sweetheart thing, me and my wife, we kind of started dating in high school, right?
Okay.
Senior year, March, like it was like she was valedictorian, I was class flirt type deal. She was going pre-med, I was enlisting in the Navy. So it's like polar opposites, right?
Mhm.
Polar opposites, which I think is a key to the success,
Yeah.
honestly. But we didn't get married out of high school, right? We each wanted to do really big things, right, in our own right. And the key was we respected what each other was trying to do. And
Mhm.
this blows my mind to this day. So two kids are sitting in a car, and I'm like, I really like you. This is like March of 08-ish time frame. So I'm 18 at this time. She's still 17. And I'm like, but I'm getting ready to leave for the Navy. That's gonna happen. You're going to college, right? And we just started dating and like all this. And this is me, who I know I'm like the class flirt, okay? I'm like, I respect you too much to drag you through this whole thing if you don't want to be involved. And I'm like, I totally get it if you're not. I don't know if that was me like looking for an out, like, you do it. I'm not going to be the one to do it. You do it. Right. But she was on board. She's like, no, I like you a lot and I respect what you're doing. And, that I think that's really neat and cool, whatever. And like I said the same things to her. It's like, I just want you to be able to focus and do what you got to do and still have a good time and whatever. And we agreed in that night. It's like, if anyone, for whatever reason, is not feeling it, just like,
Mhm.
don't waste the other person's time. Right. That's what our deal was. We had it. And this blows my mind that I had this conversation at 17 because I was not mature. So, and this is my one redeeming moment that I had as a teenager. Um, is like, I respected her. I respected what she was doing. She respected me, respected what I was doing. And we agreed, like, we're not going to waste each other's time if that changes. So we did that. We did the long distance thing. It was tough. It was hard. It was one of the hardest things I think I've ever done. So that was 18. We got married when I was 26. So that was a long time, right?
Wow.
We dated for a long time because, like you said, it's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to marry someone before I even deploy and like know what their metal is.
Mhm.
And vice versa. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to be like. So we did that. Like, she went through all those deployments as my girlfriend and was like, yeah, I'm still in it. Whatever. And like, she was graduating from med school very soon. And I was like, yeah, I think it's about time we got married.
Girls going the medical route and guys going in on a SEAL contract. Those are the most polar like not the likelihood that those two are gonna be faithful and stick to each other and
Oh
make
no,
it. You know
it's
what I mean?
statistically like less than 1%.
Yeah, way less than 1%. Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
brother. That's that again, that's a testimony. Like everybody wants to hear the war stories. Nobody wants to hear one of the hardest things you've ever done is doing that, is having a long distance relationship. But what's the most rewarding, right? And now you have 3 sons and you get to watch them. As you described, my son is the same way. Right now, he's in this weird phase where she can't be out of the room. I'm right there. And I'm like, hey, I'm not chopped liver. Get over here. I'm the one that plays with you. I'm chasing you around. And he's crying if she's out of the room. He has to be
Yep.
able to see her right now. But I love that because that's going to switch back to where he wants dad instead of mom. And, again, there's just nothing like putting your priorities in the right in the right direction, working toward those as you're helping people do every day now. And it's never too late. And that's the thing I want to end on. It's never too late to start doing the right thing, no matter what you've done in your life or what has happened to you in your life. It doesn't matter if you come from money or not from money. It doesn't matter if you're talented or not, because I am one of the most untalented people you will ever meet in your life. I don't really have a talent. I just keep going and I run face first into wall after wall. And eventually I find a door or a open window and I climb through that. And then I end up somewhere else. And you can do the exact same thing. And if you just keep trying to do hard things and put yourself into positions to where you're meeting new people, you never know where those people are going to take you. And that's what's happened to me my whole life. And it sounds like the same thing has happened to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sign up for something, put yourself out there, be uncomfortable. Then you get comfortable, then push yourself even harder. I mean, like that's the only thing you can do. Like I would say I'm not super talented really at anything either. But the difference is like probably with both of us and a lot of the guys that we know in our communities, it's just like we will show up every single day and do what is required, period. Like it's not even a question. It's like it doesn't matter what is going on in the world. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter what, what my neighbor is doing or if there's a birthday. It's like, dude, I will do it, period. Like, and that's it. Like that is the difference of our communities. And I would say Gen Pop is like, I mean, there's a lot of hustlers out there that are of the same mentality. And we recognize them when we see them. It's like, dude, we're cut from the same cloth. You would have been great in this community. But it's like, like you have that recognition. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I see you. I see you over there. It's like, I know what you will do what it takes. And yeah, that's just like, that's the thing. Just show up. Just show up. That's the biggest thing. And if you're not going to do it for anyone else, do it for the guy in the mirror to tie it all back. Show up for that guy because that guy, he's been through a lot already and he can survive anything, right? You just have to show up for him and keep going for him.
These kids can act some meat, not just flashy, not just appetizers. Everybody's getting these little sound bites and nobody's talking about how important that time is with your kids and your marriage and your finances and all the difficult parts of being a grown up that nobody talks about or really cares to talk about.
It's huge. It's huge. The way you manage your calendar and your budget, that will tell you everything you need to know about a person. I guarantee it, because how you spend your time and how you spend your money those are the two things that will highlight, no matter what anyone says. Look at those. The thing you spend the most time on and the thing you spend the most money on is what you truly care about and you feel is the most important. So, and if that's you and you were like, man, well, I spent a lot of time doing this thing and spent a lot of money on this thing, look at that. Is that truly important to you? Is it aligned with your definition of freedom? Does it help you get there? If it's a no, change it today. Like now. Yeah. Just change it. Like no one can do that except for you. No one did it for me. No one did it for Seth. Pretty much did it ourselves with a lot of grace and a lot of help from God, probably. That's it. And, our mentors along the way. Change starts with you right now.